G'day viewer, how to Big Calm here. Sorry Kev. Afternoon everybody, Calm Mike here. I was watching a video the other day, start a lot of my videos like that, don't I? And like that. By Lurch OnABike, and his video was about car memories. He was talking about memories of cars as you were growing up, your first car, all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'll join in the fun. So first car I can remember was my dad's. It wasn't his first car, obviously. Well, not necessarily obviously. Apparently his first car was an A35 that he bought for 10 quid and was a rot box, and it was so bad that his boss told him he wasn't allowed to park it outside work because it made the business look bad. Oh dear. But no, the first one I remember, my dad had a Morris Traveller. If you remember the Morris Minor, the Morris Traveller was I suppose you would call it an estate version. Americans might call it a Woody. It had all the wooden bits at the back holding the metal panels together. Lovely little car. Lovely little car. Horrible by modern standards, but wonderful in its way. I mean, it was an estate car, so in theory it should be big. But probably by modern car standards, even as I'm going to close this visor because there's that much dust in the air. My eyes are filling up. By modern standards, even though it was an estate, it's probably quite tiny. So I'm just going to stop for a minute and remove the crud from my eyes. Back in a mo. Right, where was I? That's better. I think somebody must be burning something, and it must be soot particles or something. Horrible. Gritty, horrible stuff. Yeah, so this Morris Traveller, pale blue, as many were, and it was a cracking little car. Broke down a lot, I remember that, and I remember he had to start it quite often with a crank handle, which was quite a dangerous thing to do. If you've forgotten and left your car in gear, you could be run over by your own car. We had to get the handle out of the front. You young'uns won't remember this, but you had to get cranking handle out front of the car, spin it round and start the car up. I remember my brother used to be a footballist, and you know, at school and what have you, college and Sunday league, all that kind of stuff. And I remember back when you didn't have laws about wearing seat belts and having to have the right number of seats in the car and what have you, we used to take half the football team plus me and both my parents in the one car. So there'd be my mum and dad in the front. Sometimes you get somebody sat in the footwell of the passenger side. Then on the back seat you could get 4 or 5 kids, and then in the back, say estate car style, you could get 5 or 6 again, just leaning against the side of the car, intertwined like a zip. Anyway, my dad had that car for quite a long time, and he actually had 2 of them. He liked the first one that much, when he got round to changing it, he changed it for another one. So he loved it. I remember him telling me he put his foot through the floor of one because it was that rusty, and another one, we came down a hill. It was kind of as you came down and then dipped back up again. As it went in that compression at the bottom, the suspension collapsed. So that was good. So yeah, in terms of build quality, maybe not so good, but in terms of character, really had character, because cars nowadays, very few have any character, do they? After that, I remember him getting a Morris Italia estate. Huge car. Now that was a big car, big wide thing, real long. And that was the first car I ever drove, because I learnt to drive in that. I think that's why I can do parallel parking quite easily, because if you can parallel park something that long, you can parallel park pretty much anything. But yeah, he used to take me, before I actually started getting lessons, he used to take me to car parks near where we lived at Ideal Standard, the toilet makers and shower makers. And we used to drive around there on the car parks, and then over to the B&Q and what have you, the DIY shops on a Sunday morning, before everywhere was open, you know, on a Sunday as well. These places tended to be closed, so you could get a good few hours of practicing, which was cool. And then he changed that after I passed my test for a Nissan Sunny estate. You'll see there's a pattern on the estates. My dad was a self-employed joiner for pretty much all the time I've been alive. So until he got ill and gave it all in. So yeah, my first car. Well, I started work in the town centre in Hull, and I lived in the town centre at the time, so I didn't really need a car. But I did have to get around the country in my first job, which was putting networks in and doing software training. It's a slight strange mix. Novell netware and software training, but we'd install the networks, set up all the software, and then I'd go and train people on how to use it. So needed a car for all that kind of stuff. And I just used the boss's car. He had a Mercedes E-Class. I managed to crash it twice in 2 days, which was a cracking car memory. The first time we lived down this we worked down this really tiny street, and somebody had parked this big Range Rover down it, so I had to get up on the curb. I was only about, I was 20 at the time, or 21 or something. And I got up on the curb, and as I went along I was just too close to the edge of the curb, and I slipped sideways off the curb back onto the road, and I got the door of the Mercedes into the side, into the kind of sill plate, whatever you call it, little kind of step thing on the side of a Range Rover, and I managed to damage the door very, very badly. It turned out it had 7 skins or something. It's a big luxury Mercedes. And I managed to damage them all. It cost about £3,000, even back 20 years ago, just to repair the door or replace the door. Stupid money. And then the following day I had it on the M181, little tiny motorway, and it was absolutely hammering it down with rain, and I had the cruise control on, and the cruise control got excited. Turned out there was a fault in it, and it dropped 3 gears and accelerated as hard as it could, and I spun on the motorway, hit the central reservation into the barrier, and ended up stopped, pointing the wrong way on a motorway in the fast lane, thinking, this is not a good place to be. So that was entertaining. But eventually I realised I had to get my own car. I was starting to look for other jobs. I really loved that job, but it just didn't pay well. To the point where it was hard to afford a car, really. But decided to get another job, and I thought I'll have to get a car for it, so I got my first ever car, which was a gold Nissan Micra. I think everybody gets a Micra. There's a Micra. Wasn't one of them though. It was the first of the slightly curvy ones. 1 litre gold Nissan Micra Vibe. Had a wing on the back and everything. Not that it really needed downforce. 0 to 60 in about 3 hours. But I loved that little car. I had it for about 18 months, got a bit of no claims bonus built up, and then I changed it for my first ever sporty car. So I bought myself a Mazda MX-5 1.6 in red with a hard top that you could take off, and a soft top underneath that you could obviously raise and lower, and it was brilliant. Loved that little car. The handling of that car is amazing. Everybody would tell you it was a hairdresser's car, but I didn't care because it was wonderful. I think it won the best handling car of the year or something in the year I bought it. It's 1999 I think I got it, or 2000, something like that. I love the MX-5 that much that it got damaged. I had a bird on the motorway fly into me, and it hit the bonnet, and it damaged the bonnet, so I took it in to see if they could do anything about it. So it had scraped the paint off and done a bit of dinting and what have you. And while I was in there, I was looking at buying, I was already thinking about buying, this can be a red light jump by the taxi driver, well done. I was thinking of buying a set of alloys for it, because I didn't like the 14-inch alloys that were on it. I wanted some 16s or 17s. And I was thinking about changing a few other bits and pieces on it. And I'd costed it up that all the things I wanted to buy would be about £2,500. I thought, well, I can get them over a year or so. But while I was in there looking at this damage on the other one, they said, well, we'll take it in the back, we'll have a look at it, work out what it needs. You go and have a cup of coffee. So I went into the showroom for a coffee, and I started looking at a 1.8 Mazda MX-5. And I got a cracking deal. They sold me a 1.8. It had the 16-inch alloys I liked. The 1.8, so it was more powerful, and a load of extra gubbins on it because it was a special edition. And they said, we know that we can fix your car, so we'll give you the full value of yours, and we'll give you a bit of a deal on this. And I managed to upgrade a 2-year-old 1.6 to a brand new 1.8 for 2,000 quid. I was over the moon. The only problem with it was it wasn't red, and I have to say the red one looked better. Moving on. God, this could take a while, couldn't it? I went through quite a few little cars and things. So I had a Ford Fiesta. I bought that one because we were sent out to work in Wakefield every day just after I'd got the 1.8 Mazda, and that meant I was putting about 150 miles a day on the car. I thought, this isn't good for a brand new car, so I bought this little Fiesta for about £1,000, and I ended up taking it to a customer's in London, and they just got a brand new building. I parked up my car in their car park. It was all pristine. And when I came back to the car, I got to the car park and I could see this trail of oil, and I was at the other side of the car park, and I just thought, oh, I hope that's not my car, kind of joking to myself. It turned out it was, and it managed to wee out all of its oil while I was there, so I had to nip to a nearby garage and buy a lot of oil. And I think I bought about 20 litres to get me home. I didn't have any breakdown cover or anything like that, but I just kept pulling in every 50 miles or so, pull in, new can of oil in it. So I swapped that one for a Vauxhall Astra diesel. All the time I still had the MX-5 as well. And then I got fed up of paying 2 sets of road tax and 2 sets of insurance. Says a man with 2 bikes. And I traded both cars in for the worst car I've ever owned, which was a Renault Megane Coupe Cabriolet. Lovely car to look at, great with the roof down, lovely car to drive, really smooth, really nice. But the most unreliable heap of junk I've ever had. When I bought it, it was about a year old. It had 10,000 miles on the clock, and within a week it was back in because I thought a bulb had blown. So I took it in to find out what bulb I needed. I went in to see what bulb I needed, and they said it won't be a bulb, it's a known problem, it'll be a loom. And they needed to replace a wiring loom at the front, and it all went downhill from there. So I had that loom replaced twice, and it failed again when I was taking it in to change it for my next car. I had the ignition go, which was based on one of these little cards you slot in, there's no key. I had the boot go once, so the boot wouldn't shut. You couldn't lock it, and it wouldn't shut because it couldn't lock, so it just opened itself up again. And then because of the electronics, it realised that it was open and wouldn't let you lock the car, which made the car useless. It had to stay in the garage because you couldn't leave it anywhere because it was obvious it had a boot open and you could just go and open it up. It leaked from both front windows no matter what they did. Oh, it was horrendous. I think I had it for about 10 months and I took it into the garage about 12 or 15 times. It was absolutely appalling. And I ended up changing it for a Hyundai Coupe S3, which is the longest I've ever kept a car. I had that one for 5 years. Really good car, every extra imaginable. 5-year warranty, couldn't go wrong. Traded that one in for a car that you might have seen on my early videos, which was a Toyota GT86. I think that was where my luck went back to Renault, because that one for a month was wonderful. For the next 7 or 8 months was nothing but trouble. That's not a bus lane, you don't have to squeeze out of it. I'll give you space just in case you decide to then. Was nothing but trouble, just gearbox problems, oil leaks, electrical issues, squeaks and rattles. It was a really poor show for what was supposed to be the flagship Toyota. I think it showed that the bean counters had been too involved in the design, because as a car, as a driver's car, absolutely fantastic. But you could see so many places where they'd been cutting corners. Yeah, so I traded in the GT86 for the car I've got now, which is a Polo 3-cylinder 1.2. The smallest of the Polos. And it's a good little car. But when I was having all the problems with the GT86, that's when I decided I was going to try out motorbikes. And I have to say now, all cars are boring. But that's my car history and car memories. So thank you all for watching. Ride safe. And I'll talk to you all again soon.